Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to create kick rolls within Serum. Now obviously the first step to doing that is to create the kick itself. Now most of you will probably be aware already that a kick is essentially a downward pitched sine wave. So let's go to our wavetable editor and we'll go down here and we'll do singles, sine, and then I prefer to have a upward sine. So let's go flip vertical like so. And then we'll assign the LFO to pitch. Then every time I press a key, it sounds different for two reasons. One, because we have random on. Let's turn that down. And I'm also going to go to global, and then we'll take off these oscillator pitch here. So oscillator A and B. To be fair, we only really need A because we're only using one oscillator. We can't really hear anything at the moment because we have our pitch set to bipolar. Let's change that to unipolar, and let's turn the depth up. We're also going to change the shape from a triangle to a downward saw, like so. So now you can hear that that's, well, still nowhere near a kick, but you can start to hear it kind of starting to take shape. You'll notice also when I hold the key down, it's repeating, which we don't really want at this stage anyway. We'll change that in a moment. So let's change this to envelope. And now when I press it down, it only plays it once. We can also hear, when I press a key, that sine rings out indefinitely. So let's copy LFO1 to LFO3. I've skipped LFO2 for now. Then LFO3, we're going to assign that to the level, like so. And now at the end of this cycle, then you can no longer hear anything because the volume is down to 0. Right, so we're getting there. Now, if you look at the rates that I currently have the LFO on, it is 1/4, which is obviously way too long. A kick is typically somewhere between 1/16 and 1/16 dotted, maybe even up to 1/8 for some of the full-on genres. But I like to keep it about 1/16 dotted. So to ensure that it is 1/16 dotted, we need to understand where these lines are. So this is 1/4, obviously. We have 1/8 in the middle, 1/16 would be here, and then 1/16 dotted would be there. So let's make the ending point there at 1/16 dotted. We will do the same for our pitch. Put that there. We can also now put this back to LFO mode as off and hold down a key. And now that will play a 1/16 dotted kick at 148 BPM, the project tempo, every quarter note. So let's play back the transport in the project and see if that actually does work out. Perfect. And just to be clear on the note that I've got triggered, it is just one long MIDI note. So let's continue to fine-tune the kick a bit. One of the most important elements is the volume envelope. Here we just have a downward ramp, which won't do at all. Instead, we need to make it what is commonly referred to as a fish shape, and that is like so. And it gets that shape by having a tail at the end here, and it rises up to the body and then dips down to the face or the head here. And the reason for this shape is because we want a solid attack. This is where the upper frequencies will be, because remember that I said it is a downward sloping pitch. So at the very start, we have the high frequencies, let's say 15,000 Hertz, then it drops very quickly down to the fundamental frequency, which is around 30 or 40, give or take. So it follows that when it sweeps through its frequencies like so, we have the highs here, then we have the high mids here, which are really quite unpleasant in a kick drum. So if we put a dip down here, then we essentially remove those frequencies. And it also accentuates the highs and then comes back and provides the body. So you get a really pronounced attack, plus you get rid of those muddy upper mids. Now this bit is quite fiddly and takes quite a bit of time to get the kick right. And when I say right, it's just obviously just down to preference. You saw at the start I left LFO2 empty, and that's because we're going to use it now. Let's copy LFO1 in, and we're going to assign this one also to tuning, but we're going to assign it to the master tune. So LFO2, then we have global master tune. Let's make this, let's say 48, which will be 4 semitones. And also ensure that you don't just type 48, you type 48ST. And that number will change slightly, it comes down to 38 because it's now in semitones. And once again, 48ST, like so. Make sure it is unipolar. I just have a look at a spectrum like so. So we've created our basic kick now, and this is where the roll comes into it. So now if we go to our tempo calculator, this is just a guide online. Essentially, you're searching for BPM to Hertz. And then we go down to the track tempo, 148 down here, and we can see that in Hertz, this is 2.467. So if we go back to Serum, and instead of BPM sync, let's take this off, and then we put on 2.467. And then it rounds it up to 2.5. I think that's just in the display. I think it still retains 2.467 behind the scenes. 2.467, BPM off, 2.467. Now this should still sound the same. Indeed it does. Then we're going to assign macro 1 down here, to LFO1 rate, LFO2 rate, and LFO3 rate. Macro 1. Let's turn this up to some arbitrary number. Make sure that they're all the same for now. So let's just start with, let's say 50. I don't know how that's going to go. And now when I play this back with the macro at 0, the kick will be exactly the same. But when I turn it up, we have our kick roll. Obviously that's way too much. So let's make this, well, let's do 25, half of what we just had. You need to ensure that they're all on the same value because they're all controlling the same kick, which I think is obvious. So let's just put this in with a bit of context. And then in here, let's draw a modulation lane. So let's go macro 1. Let's ensure macro 1 is down to 0. And then for the break, let's turn this up. Let's go somewhere around there. And then we'll drop it down to 0. And now because it's the kick and you want it to be absolutely perfect, so just to be safe there, render that out. Then we'll just chop off one of them. Repeat that. So now we have our bass kick. We can mute that one, also mute that one after the drop. And then we'll duplicate this. Also just for projector, because I know he likes 3-bar loops. And then let's have a listen to how this sounds. I'm just going to play this bit back. And keep in mind, this kick wasn't designed with this bass in mind. So it probably sounds horrible, and I'm hearing it the first time you are. It's passable, but not great. So let's listen to everything together. We have 1 bar of the standard rendered kick into the kick roll, and then followed by another bar of the standard rendered kick. And then just maybe to take that one level further, let's just add, I'm going to add an EQ here. Let's turn on the high cuts like so, turn down the Q, turn that up, turn this one down. And let's also assign this to macro 1. And then we have FX, EQ, low, FX, EQ high. Let's turn them up. Unipolar. So now when I play this back, you'll hear the EQ tighten into a bandpass. Might just take down the high. So let's have a listen to that now in context. So there we go, kick rolls in Serum. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.